Maybe you're thinking about visiting Austria, perhaps the amazing Schladming region. It's famous for skiing, hiking, just stunning alpine views.
Absolutely beautiful area.
Or maybe you're just curious, how do communities like that, nestled in these challenging landscapes, keep themselves safe?
Mm-hmm.
Well, today we're taking a deep dive into a whole stack of sources, documents, reports, historical notes that give us a really fascinating look at exactly that. We're focusing on the volunteer fire department, the Freiwillige Feuerwehr Schladming.
That's right. And this is especially for, anyone new to this part of Austria or maybe just interested in how local safety works in a place like Schladming.
Yeah.
Our mission today is really to unpack these sources.
Okay.
We want to understand what makes this particular fire department tick, how they operate day to day, and the really crucial role they play, which, as these sources show, goes way beyond just fighting fires. That's only part of the story.
Okay, so let's start unpacking that. Let's look at their day-to-day work right now. If you look at the list of recent calls, the letzte Einsätze, in the sources, what jumps out immediately is just the sheer variety.
Oh, absolutely.
It's everything. Traffic accidents, like you see mentions of the B320 highway entrance, then automatic fire alarms going off, technical rescues.
Right, technical rescues, that could be anything.
Yeah, like getting someone out of a stuck lift or even, searching for a missing person. And yes, of course, structure fires too, like that recent one mentioned in a power distributor. It's a huge range.
And what's really interesting there is how that letzte Einsätze list perfectly shows what Feuerwehr means in Austria.
Yeah.
It's not just fire brigade. It's fundamentally about assistance, Hilfeleistung, across a whole spectrum.
Right, helping out.
Exactly. And these sources give us a perfect recent example. May 31st, 2024, they get a call because a roof window is stuck open, it's inaccessible, and rain's causing water damage inside.
Okay, so not a fire, but definitely a problem needing their kind of help.
Precisely. It's a technical problem. And the sources give this great detail. They use their Drehleiter mit Korb.
The turntable ladder with the basket?
Yes, that one. Sent just a small crew, 2 people, and boom, sorted it out in 40 minutes.
Wow, quick.
And that one little incident, just closing a window, tells you so much. They're equipped for the big stuff, sure, but also for these precise technical jobs. Shows the versatility of their tools, even for what might seem like a minor issue.
And being ready for that kind of range, I mean, from a highway crash to a leaky window to a building fire that demands constant preparation.
Nonstop, really.
And the sources make that crystal clear. Training is fundamental. We see mentions of different Übungen drills, basically, like a recent room fire drill, another one for an agricultural building fire, which, makes total sense for that region.
Right, farms, barns, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, their schedule. The Termin section lists specific training nights for different sections, the Zug, and even for specialized gear like the SRF, that's the heavy rescue vehicle, the DLK ladder, the RLF pumper. It's ongoing, it's targeted, they're always prepping.
And that constant training, well, it feeds directly into their capabilities.
Yeah.
And those capabilities rely heavily on their equipment. The sources give us a really good look at their modern Fahrzeuge, their vehicles.
Okay.
You've got the basics, like multi-purpose vehicles, personnel carriers, the Mehrzweckfahrzeug, and Mannschaftstransportfahrzeug. Standard stuff. But then you get into the really specialized kit.
Like that Ölschadensfahrzeug, the oil damage vehicle.
Exactly. And that was particularly interesting because Schladming is actually a designated base station for handling oil spills and similar environmental incidents for the wider area.
So regional responsibility, though.
Precisely. That's a big deal. Then there's the LKW, the truck, the Drehleiter mit Korb, we mentioned that ladder, reaching up 30 meters for rescues or fighting fires high up.
Yeah.
And then the real heavy hitters. The HLF-4, think of it as a big mobile water tank, 4,000 liters, plus foam, powerful pumps.
Yeah.
And the Rissloschfahrzeug, a rescue pumper, 2,000 liters, winch, and really crucial, those hydraulic rescue tools for cutting people out of cars.
The jaws of life type stuff.
That kind of thing, yeah. Plus a schweres Riskfahrzeug, a heavy rescue vehicle, and even a loader.
So, this isn't just a garage full of fire trucks. It's like a mobile, multi-tool response system designed for everything modern life throws at a community like this, from rescues on high buildings to chemical spills to major road accidents.
Okay, now this is where it gets really mind-blowing. You compare that modern setup, all this high-tech gear, to where they started. The historical inventory lists and the sources, they're incredible.
Oh, yeah. Quite the contrast.
In 1885, their equipment, It included things like an approach spritz, basically a hand pump on wheels, right?
Yeah.
Different wooden ladders.
I can get this.
Yeah.
Leather water bucket.
Leather bucket.
Leather buckets. And for alarms or commands, signal horns, whistles, trumpets. Can you even imagine trying to fight a serious building fire with leather buckets and a trumpet?
It really puts the modern stuff into perspective, doesn't it? And that change, it wasn't instant. The sources track the evolution. By 1977, you start seeing the first proper vehicles, an Opel Blitz truck, a VW bus, a Tanklush Fahrzeug, a pumper truck.
Motorization kicking in.
Exactly. And crucially, this is when the first radios show up, and they got their first 6 breathing apparatus sets. That's a massive step towards modern, safer firefighting.
And things really speed up after that. The 2008 inventory lists a light rescue vehicle, the turntable ladders there, more radios, though interestingly only 3 handheld ones back then. They had 55 pagers to alert the volunteers, and importantly, their very first thermal imaging camera.
Now, jump to the 2024 list. The full modern fleet we just discussed. But look at the details. Went from 3 handheld radios to 25. They're using SMS alerts alongside pagers. Now more ways to reach people quickly, more breathing apparatus sets, reflecting how standard that's become. And instead of 1 thermal camera, they now have 4.
Wow.
That leap, from leather buckets to multiple thermal cameras, it isn't just about fancier tech. It shows a fundamental shift from a very basic reactive response to, proactive, highly technical incident management. The job itself has just grown immensely complex.
But the equipment changes because the challenges demand it, right?
And this region, Schladming, it has a history shaped by some really serious events, especially natural disasters.
That is absolutely key to understanding the flavor of Schladming. It's geography right there by the Enns River, the Talbach stream running through town. In a valley, it's always made it vulnerable.
Yeah, you can see that just looking at a map. The sources even mention a drowning in the Enns way back in 1679, long before there was an organized fire service. It just highlights how these rivers have always been a powerful, sometimes dangerous presence.
And then there are the fires. The history section details some truly devastating ones, like the Great Fire of 1931. It started at the Catholic Church March 30th. The sources really stress how a strong wind just whipped it up, made it spread incredibly fast. It didn't just damage the church, it destroyed the tower, the roof, the old schoolhouse, workshops, homes.
A major catastrophe.
Huge. And the scale of the response needed tells the story. 28 fire departments were called in from surrounding areas, 700 firefighters. And they had to lay out 10 kilometers of hoses just to get water where it was needed. Imagine coordinating that. The aid needed afterwards shows just how bad it was.
And then, unbelievably, almost 25 years later to the day, April 6, 1956, another massive fire breaks out. Started at Kaffee House Erlbacher, a coffee house.
Right in the center, wasn't it?
Right on the main square. And again, strong wind was a huge factor, spreading it rapidly to nearby buildings. But here's a detail from the sources that just stops you in your tracks.
Yeah.
The heat was so intense it melted the telephone cables in the post office building.
Melted the phone lines. Seriously, how did they even call for help from other towns then?
That's the incredible part. They had to use the railway company's private telephone line to alert fire departments further away.
Wow. Resourceful, but talk about pressure.
Trying to manage a major fire response under those conditions with infrastructure literally melting. It's hard to fathom. Eventually, 29 fire departments turned out, led by Hauptmann Max Schweiger. Makes you really appreciate modern communication systems compared to relying on, the railway phone.
Absolutely. Now, shifting gears from fire to water, the history of Hochwasser, these high water events or floods, it paints a picture of another constant threat from the Enns and Talbach rivers.
A recurring theme, definitely.
The sources talk about centuries of vulnerability. Take the 1897 flood. Widespread destruction, bridges wiped out, roads impassable, the railway line cut off. But there's this specific heroic detail.
The bridge rescue.
Yes. The Steigerabteilung, that specialist ladder crew, they apparently saved the main Schladminger bridge. It took them 4 hours working in pouring rain, led by Hauptmann Franz Leudel and Ferdinand Kofler.
4 hours in the rain, manually fighting to save a bridge from collapsing.
Oh, cool.
That's incredible dedication and skill right there in the middle of chaos.
It really is. And then just 2 years later, 1899, an even bigger flood hits. The sources describe teams working nonstop, the town facing landslides from Grubag Mountain, the railway out for 8 whole days.
And that 1899 flood was a real turning point, it seems.
It was. It pushed the town council to finally invest in major protective measures, structures to secure Grubag, and crucially, a modern town water supply and sewer system.
Which completed in 1907.
Right. And that wasn't just about sanitation. It was a game changer for firefighting because it meant they finally had hydrants available throughout the town.
No longer just relying on pumping directly from the river during a flood, potentially. Huge difference.
Exactly. And the sources mentioned Yusuf Schmid's eyewitness account being woken at midnight, wading through water, and makes it very real.
And the flood story continues, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. The sources mentioned 1920, when most Enns bridges were lost again. Then 1949, a really severe one hitting the Tallback area, forcing evacuations. They even had to call in the army. And get this, the firefighters logged 1,230 hours of work just for that one flood event.
Astounding commitment.
And even as recently as 2002, major flooding again, damaging bridges, including one right near their own fire station, the Rest House.
Yeah.
It just underlines why being prepared for water emergencies is still so vital for them today. It's part of living in that valley.
Definitely. And, looking through the list of helpmen or the commanders going all the way back to 1874, you see this long line of local people stepping up.
Right, from Franz Weicker back then to the current Hauptmann, Gerald Petter, who took over in 2019.
It shows this incredible continuity of leadership and community commitment spanning almost 150 years through all those challenges we've discussed.
So it's not just about them tackling fires and floods alone. The Freiwillige Feuerwehr Schladming also works very closely with other vital rescue services. The sources describe a really interesting joint exercise they did.
Ah, yes, with the Bergrettung, this mountain rescue, and the Rotkreuz, the Red Cross.
Exactly. And the scenario sounds tough.
It was designed to be. The car goes over a steep embankment, people trapped inside, but the location is totally inaccessible by road.
Okay, so the immediate problem is access.
Right. How do you get heavy rescue gear like hydraulic cutters and paramedics down to the wreck safely? And then, maybe even harder, how do you get the injured people back up to the road?
That's where the different teams have to mesh perfectly.
Precisely. And the sources highlight that the exercise wasn't just about practicing skills. It was explicitly about the different teams getting to know each other, understanding how each service operates in that kind of complex, high-pressure situation.
Building that interagency trust and coordination.
Exactly. You had the Bergretters, names like Andy Fischbacher, Oliver, and Patrick are mentioned, using their specialized ropes and winches to manage the vertical access. The firefighters doing the technical extrication from the car. The Red Cross handling the medical side.
All the pieces working together.
It's a great example of training for the tough, multi-agency rescues that are, unfortunately, a reality in a mountainous region like this. Even the mayor, Jürgen Winter, showed up afterwards, which kind of underlines how important this collaboration is seen within the community.
And speaking of community and looking ahead, the sources also mention the Jugend, the youth section. They even list some names.
Which is great to see.
Yeah, it shows they're actively investing in the future, bringing up the next generation of volunteers to keep this essential service going.
And that really brings us back to the core truth here. Everything we've talked about, the wide range of incidents, the sophisticated equipment, battling those historical disasters, working with other agencies, it's all done by volunteers.
That's the crucial part.
These are people from the Schladming community. They give up their time, they go through demanding training, they drop everything to respond to emergencies day or night, all out of commitment to their neighbors, to their town. The sources don't give us like an exact number of active members, but the sheer amount and complexity of what they do, it speaks volumes about the dedication involved.
So we've journeyed through these sources, trying to understand the Freiwillige Feuerwehr Schladming. We've seen the incredible variety of calls they handle now, the amazing technological journey their equipment has taken over, well, over a century.
From leather buckets to thermal camera.
Exactly, and how their whole history has been shaped by major fires and that constant recurring challenge of floods from the Enns and Tellbach, plus the vital importance of training and working hand in glove with other rescue teams.
And what we've really learned, I think, is that this is so much more than just a fire brigade. It's a deeply embedded, incredibly adaptable volunteer force. They're constantly honing skills, upgrading technology, all to meet the very specific and often pretty tough demands of their alpine environment. It's a story of historical resilience, yes, but also technical progress and just this unwavering community spirit.
So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe ponder. Given Schladming's long, sometimes dramatic history with these natural challenges, those powerful floods, the way strong winds could turn small fires into huge disasters, What does the consistent readiness, the advanced capability, and particularly that deep-rooted volunteer spirit of a fire department like this, what does that tell us about the underlying strength, the resilience, and maybe that sense of shared responsibility within the local community like Schladming? Something to think about perhaps next time you visit, or just consider how towns like this look after themselves.